Kakadosh, Boker Or, Masechet Chullin Daf Yomi Daf Ayin Daled, 74. So we're going to start on 74A1, where the Gemara starts, Yativ Rav Yosef Kamed Rav Huna. Okay, so this is in the first line, Yativ Rav Yosef Kamed Rav Huna. Rav Yosef was sitting in front of Rav Huna of Yativ V'Kaman, and he started saying, I'm Rav Yudam Rav. Says Rav Yudam in the name of Rav. Achalol Lazeh, right? Somebody that eats an ever meduldal, he gets lashes, loke. So a person eats a limb which was already half detached, right? He's going to get lashes. Why? Ever minachai. Amalia Urabaran said one of the rabbis, don't pay attention. Okay, you don't get lashes. Amalia Ravuna Ana Naman. Nismoch, what are we going to rely on? Adrinu Rav Yosef, right? Leapeh. So he went and he was all upset. Amarle, he says, Michael Shah, what's the question? Ki amri ana, when am I talking about? B'mita, when it dies. Deoseni pul, because when it dies, right, we look at the ever medudal, kilu was completely detached before the death, and therefore it's not considered nevela, but rather ever minachai. Ki amarhi, when they are talking about, is b'shchita, when they do shchita. Te'ena osani pul, meaning there's going to be a difference whether they did shchita or it died. If it died, so therefore it's considered ever minachai, right? And that's it. And therefore it's going to be considered ever minachai, and therefore obviously if somebody eats it, they're going to get lashes. And that's what I was talking about. What they were talking about, that they did shchita. Once they did shchita, it's not going to make it that it's separate. So Amar Rava says, mita dam Rabbanan. How do we know that mita oseni pul v'shchita oseni pul? How do we know this difference? Tichtiv says in the pasuk, v'chiyasher yipol v'chol asher yipol alav mehem b'motam yitma lemiyutemai. If you're going to tell me b'miyutem b'chayehem nivlatam nafka, they already learned from the nivlatam. But shmamina mita oseni pul v'shchita oseni pul. It's only going to be that the death makes it that kilu that it was already detached and not shchita. That means if they do shchita to the animal, it's still considered that the animal is attached because it's at the end of the day it is attached. He says, but if it's going to be that it died, it's considered that it was already detached beforehand. So Amalei Ravada Barava Lerava. There the pasuk is talking about shatzim, not animals. So what's going on? Shatzim are the creepy crawlers. So Amalei says, if you don't need it for the shatzim, but you don't do shchita to shatzim, so so give it to the be'ema. So we're going to still ask, Ken mita lachin mitamim iveshim mitamim. Right? Meaning it should be like mita, just like if it's like mita, only if they're moist should it be mitameh. But if it's dry, it should not be mitameh. So he says, no, but tre b'motam ktiv, it's written twice the word b'motam. So since it says twice the word b'motam, it doesn't matter whether it's going to be lach or yavesh, zeoto dovar. It's the same thing. Sa'amar Rav Chasta says, Rav Chasta machloket is be'ever du bar chai. But an ever of bar met, according to everybody, akol b'shchita oseni pul. Rabba says, the machloket is here. It's just like saying the machloket as over there. Okay? Ben Shmunachai says the Gemara, Vatanya, we learned in a Braita, Ben Shmunachai Yochiach, Sha'af al pi shesh b'mino shchita and shchitoto mitarato. So he says, Amar Rav Kahana comes and he says, Yesh b'mino shchita gavimo, the Tana Didan, and our Tana, yeah, he comes and he says, Mina di me, Railo parich. We're not going to ask from it. How do you know? So he says, Nafkali, don't learn it from Yudam Rav. Ta'amar of Yudam Rav, Matzita Tana, Amar Kada Pasuk says, V'chiyamu bina be'ema, that if somebody's going to touch the nevela, he's going to be tameh until the nighttime. So when it says min, v'yachol mina be'ema, mitzah be'ema mitameh, mitzah be'ema, the only part of it yes, part of it no. What are we talking about? Trefa sheshachta. You do shechita to a trefa, and even though you did the shechita to the trefa, it's considered like mitah and not nevela, right? To do with the permitting of the eating. So what happens if you put your hand inside and you do the shechita, ben tishachai, and all of a sudden now, right, you're shochet ben tishachai, what's halacha? So tibayler b'mir v'tibayler banan. It's a question whether according to b'mir or banan. Why? Right? He says tibayler b'mir akalo kam b'mir ben pekua tam shechita hanemi le'echad yatsa levir olam. You remember according to him ben pekua, if it already came outside, you need now shchita. Aval bimei mo, but if it's still inside of the mother's womb, lo shariyash shchita, right? It doesn't help. Or dilmar, maybe even according to Rabbanan, the Torah comes and tells you that there's 4 simanim, and therefore, right? You remember there are 4 simanim to permit a ben pekua. Ben pekua is if it's pregnant and then you do shchita to the animal, and there's a fetus inside of it. So he says, Amar of Chananya, Tashma reshenolda trefa mina beten. You're going to tell me, you could put your hand there and do shchita inside. So if you have 5 feet, right? Which basically just means that it had an extra feet, right? And therefore, in such a case, it was a terefa, right, from the beginning. So if it was a terefa from the beginning, it was never kosher in shchita, right? But the ubar that was behemet completely, formed before it was born, it could be that it did have a shata kosher. That means a time that it was actually going to become permitted when they do the shchita inside of the mother's womb. Okay, fine. Mishnah on the bottom of the page. Mishnah and Daled and Aleph on the bottom. השוחט את הבהמה ומצא בן 8 חי או מת, או בן 9 מת, right? לקוראו, right? קוראו, right? ומוציא את דמו. So what happens? You do shchita to an animal, and you find an unubar that is 8 months old, right? Or dead, live or dead, or 9 months, right? It is dead. So you're allowed to tear it open, right? Without shchita. Why? Because it's already permitted with the shchita of the mother. Umotzi damon, you could take out the blood. That means the blood is a sur bachila, just like, right, other balei chayim, meaning like animals, you're not allowed to drink the blood. Umatza ben tisha chai. What happens if you do the shchita and you found the ben tisha chai? Ton shchita, you have to do shchita. The chayav, right, be oto vebenon. You're also going to be chayav on oto vebenon. Divra b'min. That means according to b'min, you still have to do shchita because it came out of the womb. Plus, you're not allowed to slaughter it on the same day as the mother. That's called oto vebenon, because there's a special halacha that you can't kill the mother and the child on the same day. Oto vebenon. Okay? Divra b'min. Chachamim say, shchitat imo metarato. The shchita of the mother is going to permit it with eating even without a shchita kshera. Shimon Shizuri says, afilu ben 5 shanim v'chodesh v'sadeh shchitat imo metarato. Right? Kera'a u'matzah bat tisha chai ton shchita lefi shalon shchita imo. So Amar Rabbi Elazar ben Roshia says, Rabbi Elazar ben Roshia, lo yilchu bo ela al iske shchita bilvad. What are we talking about? Only iske shchita. The miute ma'ile miute cherbo v'gido. Right? It's coming to exclude the chelev and the gid and the sheh. Okay, of the ubar ben tisha chai, that is going to be asur. Chelbo demai says Gemara, which chelef? If you're going to tell me the chelbo of a shalil, mifli pali, it's a machloket. Tanya given a shenoig b'shlil, the chelbo asur. Divrei min, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, en noig b'shlil, the chelbo mutar. The chelef is going to be mutar. Ramana Bilazar ben Moshiach says Bilazar ben Moshiach machloket is ben tisha chai, and Rabbi Meir is going to shitato, and Rabbi Yehuda is going to shitato. So he says the Gemara, you're right. El chelbo the gid. We're talking about the chelef of the gid, not of the ubar. The miflik plig that it's also a machloket. The Tanya was learned to the right, gid and ashe, memachet acharav, you could check after it, chomakol v'chotech, shamnom yikaro, cut off the shuman. These are the words of Mimir. Yuda omer, gomemo, imashofi. Says cut it, and that's it. You have to basically get rid of it. But this is what it means to say. Amar Bilazar ben Moshiach lo yichu bo ela al iske achila bilvad, only al iske achila. אמר רבי שמעון לקיש, דברי המטיל בחלבו, מטיל בדמו, דברי האוסר בחלבו, אוסר בדמו. רבי יוחנן אמר, רבי יוחנן says, after דברי המטיל בחלבו, אוסר לדמו. So 8 way רבי יוחנן רבי שמעון לקיש, ask רבי יוחנן to רבי שמעון לקיש, קוראו מוציא דמו, when we say that you're going to tear it open, and you're going to take out the blood, right, because that means you're not allowed to drink the blood, אמר רבי אלעזר, לומר שאין לנוש כרת, but there's no karet. Okay, that means basically he's going to say that if you're going to eat it, you're not going to be over any isu karet. When somebody drinks blood, you're over any isu karet. Here, no. So it says the Gemara leman kamni. Who are we talking about then? So he says Rabbi Yehuda lo yele dam tamtzit. It's considered dam tamtzit. Dam tamtzit is the leftover of an animal, right? That we said that there is still karet, meaning when they come and they do shchita, the blood spills out, like pours out strong. But then the leftover blood, that's called dam tamtzit, that it stays behind. The danya tam tamtzit is ba'azara. Yehuda Omer is still going to be with karet. So he says, Tergama Rav Yosef, Bered Rav Salah Hasida, Kamed Rav Papa, right? Di'il Rav Yehuda dam v'chol dam. It's dam and any dam. Kol echad b'chayav dam nefesh. When you're going to be chayav on dam nefesh, it's going to be chayav also dam tamtzit. But here, since you're not going to be chayav on dam nefesh, you're not going to be chayav on dam tamtzit. Okay? Fine. Ibailu. So that's the following question. Ma'u livdo b'ben pekua. Can you do pidyon, right, of a peter chamor with a ben pekua? So since he said you need to do shchita, it's a regular sheep. So that means according to Rabbi, for sure you could. So one is the question according to Rabbanan. As they said shchita timo metarato, since they said shchita timo metarato, so it's like mamash, it's like nothing. It's like a misra de bidikula, it's like a basar in kalachat, which means that it's already shachut. Or Dilmar, maybe since it's running around, it's still a seh. So Mozut Ramar. Em podim, Ravashi ema podim, machloket. Whether you could use it as a pidyon or not. Pidyon petachamo. So Amale Ravashi Morzutra Maitatcha, what do you think? The Gamarta was you learned Sesem Psachim. Imale Halan, just like over there. Zachar Tamim Ben Shana Afkan, as we Zachar Tamim Ben Shana. So says the Gemara, no, Tifte Tifte Riba. There's an extra word of Tifte. So since it's extra, it's coming to teach you that you could use it. So you Tifte Tifte Riba, if you don't call Melinam, so it could be up for anything. She says, no, in if so, why do we need Sese? What do you need it for? So Ibailehu, another question. Maulim no bo Rishon v'Sheni. What's halakha to start counting the Rishon v'Sheni? So Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says, Monim bo Rishon v'Sheni. Mishmon Lakish says, Emonim bo Rishon v'Sheni. Nasek goes and meet kashkesh v'klipato. It's very like an egos, which is going to be mikashkesh v'klipato. So 8 ways. So they ask the following question. Mishmon Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. Habasar b'magan nevela. The basar of the ubar that was in the womb is like magan nevela. So Bishamad, I understand according to me that we're going to say Chagufa, it's one body, so that's why it's going to be kosher, right? With the mother's blood. But according to you, how does it become kosher? So Malay says B'shchita, like according to Bishimon. So 8th way, Rabbi Yochanan B'Shimon Lakish asked Rabbi Yochanan to Rabbi Shimon Lakish, Avar b'nahar uchshar. If now the sperm pekua comes in the water and now it becomes uchshar to be mekabel tumah, then it went to the bet kvarot, nitma becomes tameh. I understand according to me that it's like two different bodies because of that, right? Uchshar in lo uchshar lo. But according to you, that you're going to tell me it's one body. Hayit kashar bedama, right? The imer already become susceptible for tuma with the blood of its mother. So answers the Gemara b'shchita yeveshta. They did it and no blood came out. The lo Rabbi Shimon, not like Rabbi Shimon that he says, right? That even if no blood comes out, it's still going to be machshir for lekabel tuma.